when you build a company, you always want to be as focused as possible. So, that's a balance. I think if you are an e-com today to say, I will only work with Stripe, that's not a reasonable, direction to take. I remember when I used Shopify the first time, I thought it was so great, so easy, so user-friendly. I didn't need to know, how to think of this and that, and we want the same for finance.
So on today's episode, we're going to be talking with the founder of Juni. Now, Juni is an internet bank made specifically for media buying and e-commerce businesses. It's a great episode you don't want to miss, so do stay tuned.
Retail and e-commerce have witnessed an unprecedented transformation in the last decade. The widespread adoption of mobile technology, social media, as well as the lowered cost of cloud-based technology have not only eroded the barriers to entry in retail, but it's also led to the rapid rise and dominance of digital native product brands that sell directly to their customers. On this podcast, you'll get the scoop on customer acquisition and retention strategies employed by high-growth digital native product brands.
Not being afraid to spend because you know that customer is going to pay it back 3 or 4-fold. That's when you start to unlock channels in the way that they were meant to be used.
Listen to interviews with experts at the forefront of technology and innovation in digital retail.
3 years ago, they wouldn't have come to us because, the macro trend of cloud, Wi-Fi, broadband availability, that was a real problem.
Hear firsthand stories from founders of innovative direct-to-consumer brands.
Although I was thinking about the competition, I was more thinking about, how do I just build a freaking successful business? We focus on driving as much traffic as possible, converting that traffic, and then dumping money back into driving more traffic.
These insights will help you consistently 2x growth in specific areas of your direct-to-consumer brand. This is the 2X E-Commerce Podcast, hosted by Kunle Campbell.
Hello. Welcome to the 2X E-Commerce Podcast Show. I'm your host, Kunle Campbell. Now, the interview you're about to listen to is an interview I had with Samer El-Sabini. Now, Samer is the founder of a very unique online bank that has, that's geared to serving the e-commerce industry. And what I find interesting in this entire space in fintech is the ability to understand pain points in an industry and then solve those particular pain points with a financial product. And that's exactly what Samer has set out to do with Juni. Now, Juni is just started. They have a waiting list of, I think, about 3,000 businesses in the media buying space and e-commerce space. And they're just geared to solving the pain points. So I recall back in the days not even back in the days. So a few years ago when I was running my e-commerce business, I was having issues with foreign exchange. So because I'm resident in the UK, my bank accounts were in sterling. So I would have to convert to US dollars to buy stock. I have to convert to US dollars to buy media because we prefer to just set our Facebook accounts to USD. And then our Shopify store was set in USD. And when we got revenue, we had to convert that revenue back to sterling. It was USD. So basically, they were back and forth from sterling to USD, and we're losing money. It took us a few months to realize that, wow, okay, we're losing quite a lot of money. And then my partner actually, put together a sheet, and we're losing 5 to 6% on just foreign exchange. And then there were inefficiencies in PayPal. With our monies getting stuck, tens of thousands of dollars getting stuck in PayPal. It was a nightmare. And what Juni, the ethos of Juni, given the fact that Samer is from he's from actually an e-commerce background, in the sense that he was working in the capacity of a finance controller, or in finance basically for an e-commerce business in the past. He understands these pain points. And what Juni is set out to do is to resolve resolve this pain point. So let me give you an example. They give cash advances if like your money is stuck in Stripe or PayPal. So all of a sudden you still have access to your funds even though the money is stuck. So these are like proactive things, they do, or, your ability to buy, no limits with your Facebook advertising, account. There are a plethora of pain points that normal banking cannot solve for e-commerce. And Junie seems to be able to solve it. There are still teething issues, as you can imagine. But yeah, this interview is just, trying to get into, what this fintech solution has to offer for the e-commerce industry in general. So I hope you love the conversation. At the end of the conversation, I asked Samer to give listeners basically a treat, essentially. So listen to the end to know what that treat is, to know what that offer is. It's a really special one for you guys, essentially. Besides that, really, if you haven't already joined our Facebook group, I always, do that. I would love to see a lot more engagement on our Facebook group, but it is growing. The nice thing about it is it's there for you to join. It's there for you to connect. I also encourage, guests, on this podcast to join our Facebook group. So it's a way to get in touch, without going really cold with our guest, and it's a great way to connect with other listeners of this podcast. That's it for now. Enjoy the episode and, do let me know what you think. Cheers. What do sophisticated direct-to-consumer brands like Colourpop, Hawkberry, and Custom Ink all have in common? Well, they rely on Klaviyo, the growth marketing platform that powers over 25,000 online businesses. Klaviyo is supported by a dedicated team of experts, and it is a platform that processes and consumes more data than any other in the market. Klaviyo helps you own customer experience and grow high-value customer relationships. Right from shoppers' first impressions to each subsequent purchase, Klaviyo will understand every single customer interaction and empowers brands to create more personalized marketing moments. When you have a 360 view on customers, the growth possibilities are endless. Visit klaviyo.com/2x to get Klaviyo's holiday planning guide. Remember, that is klaviyo.com/2x. Let's take a quick break to talk about screwing up. Accidents happen. Perhaps you installed an app that messed up your theme, or a CSV import completely messed up your product catalog. Common myth: cloud-based e-commerce platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce have automatic backup solutions you can use when something goes wrong with your store. This is simply untrue. They don't. Myth busted. So what do? You use Rewind. Rewind will protect Shopify and BigCommerce stores with automatic backups. Rewind should be the first app you install to protect your store against human error, misbehaving apps, or collaborators gone bad. It's like having your very own magic undo button. Rewind is trusted by over 25,000 businesses, from side hustles to the biggest retail brands you can think of. Gymshark, Movement Watches, and Pampers all use Rewind for automatic backups. So here's the deal for 2X's. If you head over to rewind.io, which is rewind.io, install Rewind, you'll get to use it for free for 7 days. If you reach out to the Rewind team and mention the 2X e-commerce podcast, they'll extend your 7-day trial for a full month for free. Enjoy peace of mind with Rewind backups. Remember to head over to rewind.io and don't forget to mention the 2X e-commerce podcast for a full month trial. if you work in marketing, you're a founder, or, you work in the SaaS space that services the e-commerce industry, this is the podcast dedicated to rapid growth in online retail. And what I do every week is I find experts, proven experts who have shown that they have the ability or have actually grown e-commerce brands, and I bring them onto the show to essentially help you sell more online as a direct-to-consumer e-commerce brand. So if you're looking to grow metrics such as, conversions, average order value, traffic, or your audience size, and ultimately sales, you're tuned into the right show. Now, on today's show, it's a really, really special one, especially for those of you involved in media buying, in testing and prototyping of ideas quite rapidly, and you're frustrated with the financial options available to you right now. A lot of the banking and financial industry thinks in quite an archaic manner, and this company called Juni or Uni, depending on where you come from in the world, it's JUNI, aim to solve this problem. They're a digital native bank specifically built out for the media buying and e-commerce space, essentially. So if you're running an e-commerce, business, and your local banks are just frustrating you, you might want to consider this company. The 3,000, I think they're about 3,000. They're in a beta launch at the moment, and they have a waiting list of over 3,200, people or marketers and e-commerce businesses, in the line. They're based out in Sweden, and I'm joined today by Samer El-Sabini. He is the co-founder and CEO of Juni, which, as I said, is a digital bank made for media buying. Now, prior to Juni, Samer co-founded 2 companies in the e-commerce space and performance marketing space. The first, he says, was a failure, and the second was a lifestyle success. I'd love to learn more about that. He's always been responsible for all so-called boring activities such as account financing, banking, and legals, which are essential, and he's been extremely frustrated with solutions out there. He was the COO of a fintech company and realized the possibility of building something better for our industry, the performance marketing and e-commerce industry. Decided to quit, raise some, he probably puts the idea up, he's raised some money and he's put in Juni up. There's great traction thus far. And it just piqued my interest to have this conversation with him, because I think a member of his team joined our Facebook group, and I just loved what they were doing. Because a lot of the time when I sort of pre-select, people, a lot of the time when I pre-approve people into the Facebook group, I just check out what they're doing. And I looked at Uni and I was like, wow, okay, this looks really interesting. I'd like to have a conversation. We had a conversation. I was like, okay, let's definitely get this, interview on the way. I've babbled quite a lot. I'd like to welcome Samer to the show. Welcome, Samer.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. It's a great honor.
Brilliant. I probably haven't done you justice in terms of the introduction. Could you take a minute or two to just introduce yourself to listeners and viewers, please?
Yeah, I think there was a great short story of me. So I'm from Gothenburg, Sweden. I'm a lawyer by trade, so that's one reason why I do the boring stuff. But never worked so long as a lawyer, so jumped over to my friends who was in the performance marketing industry. They were setting up a company, so I joined them. That was my first company. And then in the second company, we pivoted into more of a Shopify stores. We have around 20 different Shopify stores, email lists, and so on. Started off selling drones from China to different geos, and then we started up different product lines. But in both those companies, I think I learned both, how different it is to run an e-com from a financial perspective, but also, how much I didn't know. And I think that is also one of the main drivers behind Juni, that if I would have known what I know today, I think the first company would not have been a failure. So we want to be able to give all e-commerce marketeers that access to what we call financial power. So after those companies, I joined a fintech, and there I was COO. And then I learned about banking and setting up card programs and so. And I met my first co-founder, Anders, and his wife has a big e-com. And we shared the same frustration, but we also saw that it was possible to create something much better. And I think the main insight here is that, all fintechs, most what we can call banking products out there in the first wave of challenger banks has been very generic. And when you have a generic solution, you can't make it, so deep or so valuable because you need to fit it for everyone. And what we saw that was that if we just focus on one target group, which we know, which we understand, and we also share the same pain with, we can make something much, much more, integrated, much more vertically valuable, and make something that can be great instead of just, a little bit better and cheaper than an old bank.
Sounds. There's so many things I could unpick from your short story there. One is a lawyer, moving into the digital space, into e-commerce, which I find very, very fascinating. So how hands-on were you at the time when you kind of switched gears or switched careers and were more involved into e-commerce?
So I think in our first company we did everything. So I was helping with the campaigns. We did the ads. We did A/B testing. We were at different summits. Met had affiliate networks we met up with. So we did a lot of things. But obviously my part was much more focused on the what we can call the financial parts, KPIs, working capital, banking and so on, but also a lot of legal stuff also, especially when you advertise in different geos. You need to understand the different offers and so on. But it was very hands-on. I think we were 7 people in the beginning, so we were a pretty big performance marketing company, very young, and I think it was a great time, more of in the Facebook era of performance marketing.
Tell me about it. Yeah. So this company that you were involved in, and we're going to jump into Juni very, very shortly. So this company you were involved in, was it like an agency and, an e-com incubator type thing, or was it purely e-com?
So what we did was that we had our own products, and we also tried, and I think this was also one part of our undoing, but we also tried to build software based on what we can call our internal processes that were valuable, which was very much centered around A/B testing creatives. So we built different tools in order for you to be able to A/B test your creatives, when you were marketing. But doing those two things in parallel took a lot of, both financial costs, but also, focus from the company. So what happened in the end was that, what we can call it, we did a hard pivot and went into full e-com. And that's the second company, which was very much more straightforward.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's the first question I have around Juni is, and I'm going to stick to the term Juni, is more or less like, banking is a global utility. So from a jurisdiction standpoint, how are you? What geos do you cover? What geos do you cover?
So initially we cover UK. And Europe or EU, minus Germany and Malta. And that was a sad surprise for us, but the financial inspections or regulatory authorities in Germany and Malta had different demands than the rest of the EU. So we are working on making Juni available there too, but initially it's the rest of the EU and UK.
Okay. And are there any plans of expanding to North America?
So I think, that's actually something that is very interesting, because I think in the beginning we thought that, we are from Europe, we understand the European, landscape and the problems, and there is differences in the problems, but still we have, a lot of customers on the waiting list from US. We have a lot of inquiries. So there's something with what we built and, what we showcase in our demo that really attracts both US e-com and media buyers. Australia, we have a lot from Australia, a lot of Singapore, Hong Kong. So it feels like we have a shot. But I think that, when you build a company, you always want to be as focused as possible. So, that's a balance. We also accept companies from Norway and Iceland.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so traditionally, what are the pain points for media buyers now, and how does Juni, plan to solve these pain points? What are the biggest pain points, marketers and, e-com companies are facing?
Yeah, and I think when we looked at it from the beginning, and we started talking about this last year, in the beginning of last year, so we have been, in the process of creating Juni for just 1 year. And we looked at our own pains. And I think we can categorize them in 3 parts. So you have one, which we call knowledge or insights, that it's a pain to be, it's hard to get an oversight of how much money you have, how much spend you have, your different balances, on bank accounts, payment gateways, you fund different ad networks. And as soon as you start growing and you want to test, multiple sources, that becomes a headache. You need to log into, a lot of things all the time. And not only that, I think what I realized in my second company was that I always had to communicate. Like I always had to get the question, how much can we spend on these ads? Okay, should we stop this campaign? Which is the best campaign to add more, spend on and so on? Can we buy these many products? Like, what's the working capital? So that's, the first part. And that I think can be, from the beginning, it's very shallow in the sense of just showcasing the balances and flow of funds together. But the next level is advanced insights. The second part, I think, is what most people feel right here, and that's tools. And we talked about this a little bit before, the show, but, you have everything from the compliance process. People hate that. It's hard. You can get your, PayPal account locked down. You don't know why. And I think on that level, the big difference between us and PayPal is not that we have better compliance people. The big difference, even if I think we have better compliance people, but the big difference is that because they are so generic, they put the risk assessment here. And if you're below that, they just cut you out. They don't care because it's not worth for them to go into that and look at it. But because we are so focused on an industry, we can create rules and we can investigate on a much more granular level. And I think that is a big, difference from a customer, success perspective. And then you have the other things which I hated, card limits. Our cards, the Juni Platinum Business Credit cards, have very, very high spend limits. And, I remember when we had to, call the banks in order to change the spend limits, and they were asking us why and so on, The second thing about that, is the rewards. I know a lot of e-com, business or entrepreneurs that use Amex, private Amex, instead of using something that get, cash back to the company. So that's the second one, credit lines. And I think those tools are things we can provide based on that, clear understanding of that problem. And the third part is the automation. One thing I really hated when I was, operational running is to, do all the preparations for accounting, searching and trying to find different receipts, our accountant, how rich we were. Every month in the end, I got like a list of thousands of transactions where, that we needed to find. And we need to reconcile between PayPal and Stripe. And, is this the same transaction, this one, And because we can integrate with all these sources, we can take that workload away. And in our waiting list campaign, the first one we did in June last year, we had 700 companies answering our survey. 67% said that it was 8, 9, 10, so a big problem for them. to prepare accounting, and they felt excited about it, and they postponed it as much as possible. And if you postpone that, you will not get the right insights because you will not get the reports in the right order. So that comes back to the knowledge. So I think those three areas are what we are focusing on. And, now I'm just, skimming on the top because now we have had over 100 interviews with different customers, and the FX fees. We have customers on our waiting list that when they get their revenue in USD, they have their cost in USD, but they need to convert from USD to Euro and then back to USD. Yeah, and it's like crazy. And why is that? I think because we focus on this use case, we can solve all that. We will not be able to solve it day one, but I'm 100% positive that before 2022 we will be the obvious number one choice for everyone in e-com, media buying, performance marketing in Europe.
Let's take this quick break to hear from our sponsors. Have you noticed how easily stores built on Shopify can be spotted from a mile away? This is because they tend to use the same themes, the same layout, and box standard product shots. If you're on a quest to build a fast-growing standout D2C e-commerce brand, your website should not just clearly tell your story, but should deliver a truly unique customer experience. That is why Famous exists. Famous is the secret to building premium, world-class brands on Shopify. Famous enables brand selling on Shopify to build compelling landing and product pages that include custom video, animations, and more. All pages built on Famous are optimized for storytelling, accelerate click-to-checkout conversions, and can be built without coding or developers. You can try it for free at famous.co.2x. That's famous.co.2x. Famous enables e-commerce teams build and launch custom mobile and desktop shopping experiences. Famous has powered leading online retailers like The Honest Company, JustFab, Fabletics, and more. Bring your premium shopping experience to life in minutes. To try Famous for free, visit famous.co.2x. That's famous.co.2x. Klaviyo is the e-commerce marketing platform that helps brands build relationships with memorable email and SMS messages. Today, more than 50,000 brands like Living Proof, Hint, and Choppies choose Klaviyo to help them grow. Learn more and get started with the free trial at klaviyo.com/2x. That is KLAVIYO.com/2x. Yeah. So a typical use case in e-commerce is you have your USD Amex, card. Whether or not it has rewards is another thing, but typically it will have rewards. What we are seeing and doing is TransferWise, using a TransferWise, multi-currency account for basically receiving Stripe payments. So when you get paid in Stripe in say USD, it could easily sort of siphon that into TransferWise USD account. The problem is the TransferWise is not the best when it comes to exchange rates. No. Not all the time. So you find that you just let the dollars sit in it till the time's right, and sometimes you need the funds, as soon as possible, and it's just it's a bit of a headache, I have to say. And then we have the issue with PayPal, which so with PayPal, if there's money stuck in a PayPal account, how can Uni or Ginny help? Obviously the money should come at some point in the future. Would Ginny, sort of step in and say, okay, this is money's due to you, due to your company. And so we would advance that cash because we could see it. Yeah. And, continue with business as usual. So, there's more cash flow coming through.
So, and I think that is one of the great features we are planning to launch now in the, I would say, Q2, Q3. And that is, to be able to give credit based on your total balance. That's been one of our main goals from the beginning, because our company had like a deposit of, I think it was $18,000 on our PayPal. And that was obviously disturbing of many reasons, especially because they didn't even understand our business. So it was just, they just, took a finger in the air and said the number. But I think because we know it's there, we can take security from it. And if you're integrated, we can also make sure that when money comes in, we can deduct that. So what we can do forward is that we can, when today you can integrate your PayPal and Stripe, and then we can offer credit on that. So as soon as it's paid out, you don't need to wait 3 days. You get the money available for you directly. And the second is to even get more money. If you have a deposit, if we see that you're getting money to your account, we can also, in advance, give you more liquidity. And that is one of the main goals. And that's something we discuss with partners also. But it also comes down to getting the right amount of data. So, for us, in order to be able to take that risk, we need to have a critical mass of customers, which with data that we can look at and make the models secured by or test by.
Right. Yeah, it's for many startup companies, D2C companies, and even dropship companies, there's big problems sometimes. So in the US, I believe that the payout periods are 3 days by default, 3 or 5 days by default. Yeah. In the UK, by default, it's 7 days. It's 5 working days. However, once you show history, there's a certain transactional volume. This is Stripe I'm talking about. You hit. And once you hit it, you could reapply, and they'll shorten that 5 working days to 2 or 3 working days. You get it in 3 days. Yeah. So you're saying that Genie moving forward in Q3 or Q4 would just see monies in Stripe. Say we have 50 grand in Stripe that's due to come in 3 days, and just advance it to our Visa debit card with yourselves.
Directly, yeah. And I think also there's a lot of granularity to that, because if you have been customer with us from now, even if you start up a new company and we can link it, because we are the bank, so we have the KYB, we see all the companies. So if we see that you create a second company, we can still look at the first and know that, it's not, we not only need to take security from, your new history, we also know, that this company is part of this bigger conglomerate. We can also look at your different accounts. Like Stripe only look at Stripe. But if you have a PayPal, account and that's integrated with Juni, we can also see the flow from the PayPal account. And therefore, know exactly, get the history much faster. And I think that is something we think is extremely exciting over time. Yeah. And I also think that's one of the reasons the investors are very excited about us, because we can be the natural center for a lot of these players, because it's very hard, I think, if you are an e-com today, to say, I will only work with Stripe. That's not a reasonable direction to take.
So what's the situation now? You're connected to 2 major payment gateways, the most popular, Stripe and PayPal. What are the integrations do you have at the moment?
So we have integration with PayPal, Stripe, and we have integrations with over 5,000 banks in Europe. So that's the first ones. We're also working on a Gmail integration for the accounting preparation, and that's done, but we haven't released that before we can match the invoices directly. The next step is to focus on the customers on our waiting list. They have given us a lot of feedback on payment gateways they want to, integrate with Checkout, Molly, Klarna, and so on, and also the big e-com platforms. So Shopify, BigCommerce. So those are the ones we're going to start with. And then also some of the big affiliate network technologies, Everflow. And I think that will be a very interesting, next 4 months. And besides that, we're also focusing on the ad networks. But in many ways, what we've decided from day one is to develop together with the community. So we now have I would say, rather big community on Facebook. And we want to be able to ask our customers, which ad networks are most important for you, and then see, where we should focus. So we don't, bring product to the table which we believe is perfect, but it's developed only for my own business and not for the whole media buying community.
Finally, let's talk about credit. Credit seems like the e-com industry now is flooded with a lot of credit options. There's credit everywhere now. Whether we're talking at a platform level, Shopify will give you credit. Stripe has started to give credit. You have many institutions, many fintech institutions coming into finance, inventory, and ad buying. Facebook will give you credit. Very generous with their credit. Where do you see Ginny in this landscape of credit? Where's the pain point? What pain points are you seeing in e-commerce, and how can you sort of de-risk from companies that are over reliant on credit on in the entire landscape where they're taking credit from everybody they're doing business with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, obviously we have looked at a lot of these, Amazon Lending, Shopify, Capital, and so on. And I think we have focused very much on the short term, like we discussed before, when you're waiting for money to come in. So that's one part. And I think the second one is that, the vision from the beginning has not been to be like the competitor to Shopify Capital. What we want to be is the center. We will get a lot of information. And if you have Shopify Capital, only looks at the Shopify data today. And what we want to be able to do is to showcase for our customers, all the different options they have, and then give them the best credit. And I don't care so much, honestly, about if we make any money from it, if we get a rev share, if there's zero. But we want to be the trusted advisor for the companies. Because as you say, there is a lot of options out there. And I don't think most e-com, I myself, would never have the right oversight. So if we can say to you, okay, this is the credit options you have, these are the different fees or costs, these are the purposes, and these are the ones you can get together, and so on. And I think if we can do that and become the neutral face, and advisor, banks 400 years ago mostly were seen as advisors. I don't know so many banks today that people think of like an advisor. And I think we can be that because we are focused on one industry. And that is what we want to be. I don't want to have like a big balance sheet with, and try to win over customers and make money of them going in debt. I think that's the wrong way to go. We want them to, get the best credit to grow. And what I realized in my past companies was that it's so much about, knowing how it works. Like we got, credits because I was part of the company and I knew how to, give the right data and which options there were out there. But if you would have if our company would not have had me, been only the other co-founders in that e-com, it would have been a much, harder path for them to get the best credit, facilities. And that's obviously not how it should be. I remember when I used Shopify the first time, I thought it was so great, so easy, so user-friendly. I didn't need to know, how to think of this and that, and we want the same for finance, that you can create an e-com, you can start up, you get the help you need, and you can trust that you will get the support from Juni, and you don't need to learn it by yourself by failure.
Makes sense. Makes incredible sense. So are you going to have an app, or is it going to be, do you have any plans for an app, a mobile app for
Yes. So actually now we are 23 people, and the last new hire, or the most recent new hire, who started on Monday, is a very strong mobile app developer. So we will release an app. I can't say when, but hopefully this year we will have it for at least one of the two big platforms. But we see it all. I think that is, today it's necessary to be able to give the right user experience to have a mobile app. So that's one of our priorities for this year.
Incredible. Okay, so rounding up. you have a Facebook group, right? So for listeners, you just, if you want to find out more, just type out Juni, Juni, on Facebook, and browse through to groups, and you will find the Juni group, and you have 3,200 people on your waiting list. But you do have a special offer to 2X e-commerce listeners. We can jump the queue. I'm going to let you. What is your offer to us?
Yeah, so because we're free, it's hard for me to give any discounts, and we're giving 1% cashback, which is the highest in the industry. So, but what I can offer is, if you email me at samir@juni.co, you will jump the queue and get an invite, this or next week. I'm really happy to be here, and I hope a lot of you listeners liked what you heard, and want to test out Juni. It's still in beta, so it's a great product, but it's not perfect yet. But if you want to jump the queue and test it out, we're here for you.
I appreciate that, Samir. You find a few people will want to jump the queue, so expect some emails. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. The great things that come out from Sweden. I'm just looking at my episode 16 of this podcast. This was back in, let me even check. It was back in, when was this? I can't even get the details here. It was 5 years ago anyway. I interviewed one of the founders of Klarna from Sweden, Nicholas Alderberth, and look at them now. I think their valuation was, 18 billion or thereabouts. So, fresh beginnings. And I wish, Juni the very best. You guys are doing an amazing thing. And I like your hyper focus serving the e-commerce industry. So thank you, Samir.
Thank you so much.
All right, cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of 2X E-Commerce. We encourage you to connect with our community of 2X E-Commerce listeners on our Facebook group, E-Commerce Growth Accelerator Mastermind. Just search for 2X E-Commerce on Facebook to find it. Answer 3 questions and you'll be approved. Grab the show notes of this episode on our website, 2xecommerce.com. Finally, if you haven't already, give the show a review on your podcasting app. Catch you on the next show, and keep growing.